Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there, good God in heaven. May 10, 2023. Normally I am against building more prisons, but I think we might have to just to hold all the Republicans that are going to end up behind bars in the next year or two. Good God. All right, so good God. So the creep Santos has been indicted, right? I'm just reading stuff. I mean, he's surrendered. He has surrendered to authorities and facing a slew of federal charges, which could put him in jail for a long, long time. So apparently the U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of New York, boy, I'll tell you, to be a U.S. attorney anywhere in New York these days is, wonder if they even remember their children's names. Good God. Anyway, so he's in trouble. The FBI, the DAs, the Nassau County DA, the feds, the U.S. attorney, all of them have been investigating. I mean, the guy is such a crook. So it's unclear, at least as far as I know. Maybe you guys are more up to date than I. It is conceivable he could be released on his own recognizance. I wouldn't give. This is a guy whose own recognizance suggests you lock him up right now. They could give him a really high monetary bail. He has to, or they could grab his passports to make sure he'll be back, or they could just throw. I mean, he is as untrustworthy a creep as ever existed. Anyway, unbelievable. So. It says here, reporting, this is 15 minutes ago from I think a Washington Post reporter, Santos arrived at the courthouse in an uncharacteristically low-profile manner. He slipped past several dozen reporters. Many of the disappointed had waited for hours and expected him to make a spectacle. Well, I guess he's a little chastened. It's unclear whether he traveled in a private or a police vehicle. He entered by a back door, and he is being processed. Yeah, well, there you go. Keeps on keeping on. So when last we spoke, I was asking my sister how long you think it'll take for the jury in the Eugene Carroll case. Because, I mean, I figured they'd have to, and she said, they got to go in and, go through a few things. We decided it'd be, a few hours. That's what it was. A few hours. And, wow. And here's the bizarre thing. This now, convicted sexual abuser, defamer, is going to be the star of a primetime town hall on CNN tonight. Now, since that is an unscripted live event, good God, I was not going to watch it on principle. And then I realized that professionally, I was going to have to subject myself to it. And I don't want to. I think is there a drinking game we can play? because I intend to get drunk while watching it. What would be the prompt for a drinking game on watching CNN's Trump town hall tonight? I think, some of the I can think of so many. I mean, yeah, I could be drunk before we even are past the 10-minute mark. Anyway, God almighty. Just back to E. Jean Carroll for a minute. When I heard that he had not been convicted of rape, I thought, the sexual assault, but not rape. I mean, and I didn't know exactly what the delineation was, but I've since found out to find that Trump had committed rape. The jurors would have had to believe that he penetrated, that his appendage penetrated into her vaginal opening. That's what the judge told the jury. He said penis, not appendage. And I have to say that I find it interesting that they said, well, we don't know. We believed her all the way down. But I have to admit, I couldn't quite figure out how the hell he could have managed that if she were fighting back. Because they were standing up. I mean, it would have been, I don't know. Well, you and I we've all been around a while, but it seems to me that an awful lot would have had to be happening. He would have had to be extremely deftly, almost athletically inclined, it would seem, to manage to get her in a situation where he's taking her clothes off. He's got to be obviously doing so. And I couldn't figure it either. I mean, I could see, yeah, maybe, but I thought it was interesting. And it doesn't matter, actually. Really. So there's three kinds of sexual battery. There's rape. That involves penetration. There's sexual abuse, which is what they found. And there's forcible touching. And the difference between forcible touching and sexual abuse is, I don't get quite. But there it is. That's the law, parsing things. By the way, this judge, Lewis Kaplan, who managed this trial with a great deal, I would say, of judiciousness and control, did tell the jurors, and I don't know, has this gotten a lot of attention? I found it made me like him. Wait. Sorry, update on Santos, what he was charged with, but I thought we knew that already. Wire fraud, money laundering, stealing public funds, lying on federal disclosure forms, lying to that. Yeah, well, right. But the judge, as you'll recall, had been concerned about this jury even before the jury was chosen, knowing how the Trump thugs operate. He was concerned that they would be intimidated, threatened, or certainly subjected to potentially terrifying and life-threatening situations. And so this jury was absolutely anonymous. Their names unknown to the prosecution and the defense. Their faces, I guess, unknown. I have no idea if they were behind a curtain or something. But the judge, after they had given their verdict, he said to them, "My advice to you is not to identify yourself." He told them, "You're going to if somebody figures you to be one of the jurors, or if you tell someone and they tell someone, and then you start getting calls, and that will happen. You start getting calls from reporters." He told them before he let them go, "My advice is do not speak out. Do not identify yourself as a juror." And he said, and I am saying, do not do this for a very long time. And that is wise advice. And I hope that the jurors are wise enough to listen and to it's hard in America, given a chance to be on TV. It's hard in America, given a chance to be on all the cable news shows, talking about like the jury deliberations. We've all seen jurors do this. And we live in a culture in which that is like the be all and end all. You know, your 15 minutes, celebrityhood. Maybe you could even get some money off it. But the price you would pay as a juror that found Donald Trump guilty would be way, way too high a price to pay. I hope they're smart enough to realize that. But the Trump town hall, you know, it's not as if CNN has offered Joe Biden a town hall, have they? I mean, when is the damn election? It's over. It's a year and a half away. One of the problems with American politics is that right after an election, we start running the next one. There is never any downtime. And I'm not thinking for the candidates. I'm thinking for us, given how hot our political climate is. This is jumping the gun on CNN's part. It did not have to start this off this early. And I've been reading a lot of what people are saying about whether CNN should offer, in any case, should offer Donald Trump this kind of a platform. Haven't we been here before? As Michelle Cottle in the New York Times op-ed page today said, have we learned nothing from the past 8 years? She's talking about media. Here's the problem. He is, as we know, the leading contender for the presidential nomination of the Republican Party. So for a news outlet to pretend he ain't there on principle is just not doable. I give you an illustrious journalist, Ted Koppel. Let me find what he said. Here, Koppel. So what are you saying? No more live political events because politicians can be nasty because they tell lies? I'm not sure the news organization should necessarily be in the business of making ideological judgments. Is he a legitimate object of news attention? That's the question. Is he a legitimate object of news attention? Koppel says, you bet. He goes on to say, has Trump pushed the boundaries of honesty, Jesus, good taste, decency, humanity to such a degree that we should not put him on the air at all unless we've had the chance of what he has to say? I can understand that that's a reasonable question to ask, but it puts a very heavy burden on the shoulders of the people who, well, run news operations. Because it means we're going to let them decide who gets on the air and who doesn't. But they do already, Ted. I just want to say that decision is, that is what people who own and control news operations do. Being disingenuous there. But Bob Schieffer says, there's no question he very well might get the nomination. And news media is in the business of telling people who's running for what and what they stand for, so that there is no getting around the question of should media cover Trump. They have to. But I think if we've learned anything, and if they've learned anything, they have to, in a different manner in which they did the first time around. And it'll fall to Lynn Cullen, who is the moderator of tonight's horror show. It will fall to her to fact check him in real time, to not allow remarks of his that are total lies, should be pretty much everything he says, to go unchallenged. And in that regard, it will sort of play into his plaint that they're out to get me. They won't even let me finish a sentence. Everything I say, they counter. I can't get a word in edgewise. Who knows? I feel for her. I can't imagine this is an assignment anyone would want. She knows him well. She was the White House reporter, wasn't she, for CNN during his tenure? Well, she seems like a smart, capable cookie. And is that a sexist term? I don't know why I said that. It was my tendency to want to alliterate. I said capable, and then cookie was right around the corner. Anyway, she does seem like a capable. I don't want to watch this. And even Michelle Cottle, who wrote this piece in the New York Times today, who started out with this sentence, "Hunker down, America. Here we go again." And also who asked the question, have we learned nothing? The past 8 years, even she, by the end of her piece, was siding with Koppel and Schieffer. You cannot ignore him. She says, we have learned. She's answering her own question. Have we learned nothing in the last 8 years? She says, we have, in fact, learned much about Trump and the threat he poses to American democracy. But trying to shut him out of the public discussion or campaign process would bring its own dangers. Not only would it play into the politics of victimhood that he peddles with such infuriating effectiveness, it risks further undermining public faith in the democratic process, potentially making our system look too weak to deal with this aspiring autocrat. And with so much about Trump, there are no easy fixes. She points out that nothing so far, legally, nothing he's done, nothing he said, not even the verdict yesterday, nothing legally prevents him from pursuing the nomination or for taking office if he were to win. And who calls me every time? Will someone please tell me to rip this landline out or to shut it up? That would be a good idea. I never answer. So why am I subject to this? There's something, I don't know. I keep thinking it's some kind of a thing I shouldn't give up. I think I'm wrong. Okay, so that's it. She says that CNN has a lot on the line with this. Maybe even more than he does. And again, that's falling pretty much on Lynn Cullen's shoulders. So the Trump show is back. God knows. Sucking all the air out of the room again. The difference is we have so much more information about him. And I would be stunned if the media totally capitulates as it did the last 2 times around. And she ends her piece by saying voters deserve the opportunity to take a clear measure of this man's candidacy, no matter how nauseating some of us find that process. Oh, dear. Hey, this is not what I wanted to do tonight. One more thing about the E. Jean Carroll verdict. It has. There are some Republicans who have now said, look, we can't go with him again. We can't. This guy ain't going to win. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, even, was it Senator Cornyn Texas, yeah, Senator Cornyn said, I don't think he can get elected. So, Senator Thune of South Dakota suggested that I think people are going to start rethinking things. People are going to have to decide if that's a factor. What is being a rapist, a sexual assaulter? People are going to have to decide if that's a factor. For a lot of voters, it is going to be. And Asa Hutchinson, of course, who wants the nomination himself, says the jury verdict should be treated with seriousness and is another example of the indefensible behavior of Donald Trump. I believe Mitt Romney has come out and said this is essentially the same. So this is some fallout, and maybe some Republicans are seeing this, grabbing onto it as a possible way to untether themselves from Trump. I mean, most Republicans, after the verdict, have done what most Republicans always do in these cases. They've hidden under their desks or feigned. What are you talking? I'm not aware of. I'm sorry. What are you talking about? I'm not up to speed on that. Shameless. Not Marco Rubio, though. Marco Rubio said this is going down with the ship. The jury's a joke. The whole case is a joke. So it's also been pointed out that, this is not a criminal trial, this is a civil trial, and that the civil law is where Trump spends a ton of his time and always has, as a defendant and as a litigant. He's constantly suing people himself, right? It's one of his MOs of intimidation. Did you know he sued the band Earth, Wind, and Fire, saying it was not an A-list talent? I don't even know that's all the information I have here. I don't know I don't know. He sued a Miss USA contestant for defaming the pageant. When it comes to defamation, he knows it. My God, he sued, He has sued Hillary Clinton. He sued, a lot of his former staff, Michael Cohen. He has sued the New York Attorney General. He has sued, almost all of these cases that he has always used the civil system for. They've been thrown. He doesn't win them. They're thrown out. They're deemed frivolous. But they're a tactic that has always worked for him. So this time, the system bit him. And that's a great takeaway also from the events of yesterday. I have a caller. Hello there.
Did the system really bite him?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. He never pays. I'm glad he doesn't owe me money, but he never pays, I don't think, for anything.
Well, I think what he's finding out is that when he gets into the actual legal system, it has a way. It's bigger than him, and he will pay if it comes to that. They'll make it, or he'll go to jail.
I hope you're right. I am so hope you're right. I may have told. I'm sure I told you this before, but we were visiting friends in Canada. This was in 2018, 2019. They were just saying, on the outside looking in, like, well, when do you think he will go to jail? Just like, like it's an eventuality. And I'm like, I wish he should, but it don't make it sound like it's going to happen. And they're like, why?
I have always maintained, I'm not so sure. I know everybody says no way, no way. I don't know. With everything that's coming at him, and with the knowledge that he has broken, I mean, we know the guy has committed federal crimes, state crimes, and at some point, something's going to put him in jail. I do think. I mean,
will it happen in time before the 2024 election? Not put him in jail, because if he's convicted of a felony, he is legally prohibited from running for any public office, correct?
I think
so. So what's the Republican Party going to do there? Are they still going to nominate him?
No.
Even though he's, this is one of those things where it always said the tail wagging the dog, the tail wagging the dog. They said it about Clinton. They said it about it's always been said about somebody. This is the tippy tail, the tip of the tail that is wagging the dog. These crazies are controlling this country, and they, it's not the tail; it's the tip of the tail that's wagging the dog, and the Republicans are letting it happen.
Because they're scared. They're scared of the crazies that they created, let loose.
Did you you were talking about drinking games when you were talking about? I had to tune out for a bit. Did you mention words to drink from?
No, nobody's given me any. I'm not good at that kind of thing. So,
remember when during when Bush was running, I think it was like, it was in the words like every time he says evildoer,
right.
Or your love with God or something, like you would take a drink, and for Trump it would be too easy. It would be.
Oh yeah, I know, because it's so. Yeah, right. It is. It's too easy. As I said, we'd be drunk. We'd be drunk in the within 10 minutes. On the floor. Yeah, too easy.
Okay. And then you were saying about losing this Jean Carroll case, that you think that might be like finally the Republicans will get their get some.
No, it gives them a little. It's giving some of them a bit of a thing to hang on to suggest, well, maybe, I know we all love him, but maybe he can't win, given that a lot of Americans don't think sexual assault's a great thing to do. I don't know. It gives them a little, but, Barbara just sent me something that another senator, Tuberville, the vile Senator Tuberville, said after the verdict.
Okay.
All his verdict does, it makes me want to vote for him twice. He says they're going to do anything they can to keep him from winning. It ain't going to work. People are going to see through the lies. A New York jury. He had no chance. There you go.
Yeah. You know what?
So,
Gary Hart and John Edwards are saints, and they quit.
Oh my God!
John Edwards. He was shamed, but these guys could run for office with all their stuff. That pales.
They don't care because they're shameless. I've been calling Republicans shameless for 40 years, and little did I know back in the day just how shameless they could be. It's incredible. It really is incredible. All righty, Roger. Don't get too drunk tonight.
I'm not watching. I don't do that too much. I wouldn't do that.
Oh, you don't. Well, I have to.
To what purpose would you watch it?
I'll report back tomorrow. What? He's the leading candidate for the Republican nomination to the presidency. And, I want to see how CNN is, whether they're going to, having unleashed this upon us, if they're going to be able to control him. I do need
it's not about the man. It's about CNN. Isn't that interesting? Because I think that is more of a story there.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
He's going to see if they. Dipshit. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we know him. Lynn Cullen, as I said, I can't imagine, man. If I were she, I'd be mainlining Xanax right now. I can't imagine. So
I'm glad I'm not a reporter.
Yeah. Thanks for the call.
Okay. You have a good day.
Okay. Appreciate it. Bye-bye. I wanted to share with you one more thing. Again, how horrible these Republicans are. I just wanted to share this with you. Fourth largest city in the country is Houston, Texas. Houston sits in Harris County. Harris County, by the way, is, I think, bigger than Rhode Island. Again, I sighed because I was thinking of the way our Senate is made up. The absurdity of Rhode Island having 2 senators and Harris County having none. So Harris County was a reliably Republican area in Texas up until relatively recently. And it's been going more and more and more toward Democrats, so that now it is considered an emerging Democratic stronghold in red Texas. And so, if you're a Republican in the state legislature in Texas, where you have a supermajority, where you control everything, what do? Well, I was mentioning yesterday, these legislatures are continuing to pass laws preventing people who vote for Democrats from voting. And listen to what the Texans are doing. They got a ton of bills in the hopper so that they can interfere in the vote count in just Harris County. Can you imagine? In just Harris County. They do this, they're able to do this because they pass certain bills that, for instance, a bill that would allow for the state to remove an elected local prosecutor, a bill that would, and the way they do it is that this only affects counties with a population over, I don't know what the number is, let's say 2.5 million. Well, there's only one in Texas that fits that description, and it's, Harris County. And so here's a Republican senator in the Texas legislature. The Texas legislature will ensure that there are consequences for Harris County's failure to run elections properly. In other words, to have Democrats winning. And so they're going after all kinds of things. I can't even, I'm looking for the specifics of this bill. I mean, it is so draconian. It is so unbelievable. And they're, again, shameless. So they will try, the state will try to, I guess, take over. Counties run elections. They're passing bills that will allow them to elbow aside the people running the election in this increasingly blue county, which encompasses Houston. And I don't know. I mean, I would think these things are unconstitutional, these laws. But again, getting through the legal system in time for rule, I don't know. They're incessant. They're insatiable in their lust for holding power. And they'll stop at nothing. I wanted to share with you a piece that I was sort of stunned by. In some ways, I think it took courage to write. On the other hand, you're left with the feeling of this guy needs to screw up some courage. It's written by Brian Broom. I've read you some of his stuff before. I've read his memoir, which is wondrous. He who grew up as one of the few black kids, one of the few gay kids in a small town in Ohio, and wrote a just searing memoir about it. And because that book was so amazing, he now writes quite a bit for the Washington Post and for other outlets as well. And he wrote a piece in which he acknowledges that he is somebody who suffers from anxiety. Now, I know a lot of people do, including yours truly. I always thought my major psychological issue was depression, but it wasn't until maybe the last 10 years that I ferreted out the reality that it's really anxiety. I mean, the two often go hand in hand, but I have extraordinary social anxiety, which might seem absurd, given that I sit here and talk to people. But stop and think about it. You ain't in the room with me, are you? This is maybe the only way that I'm able to without just sort of becoming a total wreck. But Brian Broom apparently suffers quite a bit from it. And he says that all of these shootings, mass shootings all over the place, have made him so anxious that he's becoming housebound. And he said, I'm fine with that. He says that I just don't want to go. I'm always, and that my anxiety is not like that at all. I can't even imagine. I mean, I'm more rational in that I think the odds still are that I can go to the grocery store and not be killed. The odds are still with me. But for somebody with the kind of anxiety that he has, that doesn't do him any good. And he says, he has the luxury of working from home. I have friends. I might have a few over, but he doesn't really go out. And he said, for people like me, the pandemic, COVID, the lockdowns, that was a cakewalk for a person like me, he says. It was easier for a person like me as well, because my social anxiety was way down. I didn't have to do much socializing. but he's really got it bad. I don't stroll in the park, he says. A backyard is good enough. I don't go to parades. A concert's out of the question. A movie theater is the last place I would consider going. Wait a few weeks, a film will be streaming. I can sit on my couch without worrying about gunfire. And then he says, angry and violent men, and yes, always men, appear to be everywhere now. Shooting people who made the innocent mistake of going to the mall or turning around in a driveway or knocking on the wrong door. These shootings seem inevitable. A destiny that's just around the corner. It is a pathetic condition for a nation as powerful as ours. Even Amnesty International warns travelers to exercise caution when visiting the United States. And he says, I'm sticking close to home because right now humanity scares me. This country scares me. All it takes is one angry lunatic with a gun. And it feels to me as though these people are everywhere. You can call me paranoid if you like. Or you can tell me all about the statistical improbability of getting killed in a mass shooting. I think only about those whose lives were tragically cut short at random. And I know I'm not the only person who feels this way. Who passes on going to certain places out of fear that one of these men will appear? I know that the chances of getting gunned down in a mass shooting are low, and I know it's important for all of us to push back against all forms of violence. We need to see each other. We need to gather together. If we are to survive as a people, we need crowds to gather, if only for the purpose of enjoying ourselves without fear of violence. But for now, I'm good at home. I know that my anxiety tricks me into believing that bad things will happen, but our reality makes it impossible for me to believe they won't. So, I remember thinking, geez, come on, suck it up, guy. But you can bet he's not alone. You can bet he's not alone. And a lot of the people responding to it are saying things like, look, you cannot surrender to fear. And another one who said, remember when you were young and you were told when you were learning how to drive that you had to drive defensively? Well, now we got to shop defensively. We've got to worship defensively. We've got to go to school defensively. We've got to go to a dinner at a restaurant defensively. You name any subject, anything that you would leave your home for. As a matter of fact, for those people who were gunned down by their neighbor in their own home, I guess you got to sit in your own house defensively. But see, that level of paranoia is what causes some of these idiots to shoot people who ring their doorbell. But some of the people are saying, geez, guy, man up. Get a gun. It's incredible. It's amazing. And we have virtually even these Republicans who like to say it's mental illness. Yeah. So you would think they would be out front and center making sure that mental health care was topmost in their agenda then. You know, making sure that people have access to mental health care. Are you aware of any Republican who's banging the drums to do that? Even when they say that's the problem? I don't know. So there you have it. I don't know. It's amazing to me that somebody like him is telling us that he literally has gone into, that for criminals. I mean, people who've committed crimes are sometimes, if they're, I guess, lucky, they're put under house arrest, right? And that people are voluntarily putting themselves under house arrest in reaction to this just spasm of violence. I don't think spasm's the right word. I've been coming up with a lot of wrong words lately. Jeez. Anyway, what else I got here? I have, excuse me, just a sec. I want to get back to if anybody's wanting to get in here. I do have one other thing I want to wing your way, if I may. And it's again on one of those one of the subjects that I'm stuck on these days. Okay, I wanted to get back to my page, and I see that some of you have in fact written. Rob writes, Keith Olbermann mentions that CNN is going after disgruntled Tucker followers by booking Trump at 8. Tucker's time slot. What are they going to do? They'll have to turn to CNN to see their guy. Oh, that's smart. Which makes sense, says Rob, looking for their new management, seeing as their new management is trying to destroy the network. Of all the people to interview him, who picked the 31-year-old who I understand used to work with Carlson? What? Caitlin Collins used to work with Tucker Carlson? What? I mean, I used to work with a lot of reprehensible people myself. I mean, just because you're working with somebody at a news outlet, they were at the same outlet at one point. It doesn't mean you're like them. I just want to say that because I think she's pretty good. She came in and walked over all of the CNN reporters. She seems to be sleeping on a couch, and she is on 24 hours a day. Okay, I don't watch them that often. I knew she'd been given this morning show with the late Don Lemon, but I always found her good. Just want to say. Bob and Braddock write, what's more depressing? Stomaching Allegheny County executive ads for Michael Lamb and John Weinstein attacking Sarah Inamorado, or seeing former KDKA TV anchor Stacey Smith in ads for John Weinstein? I haven't seen any of that. Stacey Smith is doing ads for John Weinstein. Or is it Weinstein? I've forgotten again. Oh my God. I don't watch all that. I have not seen these ads. I saw on my phone this, little segments of this ad that they're running against Sarah, trying to suggest she's Vladimir Lenin in drag. Geez. They're scared. They're running scared. They got tons of money. You're going to be assaulted with this stuff from now until Tuesday, right? Hey, and I got news for you. Tomorrow, I will talk about this more, unpack who I think, the better candidates are if you're intending to vote, and I sure as hell hope you are. Wow. Incredible. Stacy, that's interesting. I don't know if it's interesting. There you go. See, I don't watch the local news. I didn't even know Stacey Smith wasn't on anymore. That's how out of it I am. But yeah, once he's out, he's got the ability to do something like that. Wow. Barbara, go away. She keeps sending me these things, damn it, that scare the shit out of me. And I'm scared enough. Headline, a frightening virus is killing a massive number of wild birds. I did see something about that. A viral disease is around all over the planet. Type of avian flu. Yeah. Well, that's why the price of eggs went so high, isn't it? Avian flu. Look, we're doomed. I mean, I don't know what we're doomed. Okay, you guys. Anybody got something nice to tell me? Look what happened the minute I started talking about the pirates. I want to tell you, did I not? I mean, I remember, it's kiss of death. Look, I say, look. They're winning. They're amazing. They're fun. How long is this losing streak? Dear God in heaven. Okay, here's this quick thing I wanted to, there's not enough time. Okay, real fast. This'll, Barbara, I'll give you your avian flu and I'll come up with artificial intelligence on the battlefield. Okay? For what's your nightmare going to be tonight? Other than watching Donald Trump. Turns out that the Pentagon is really freaked out about the White House suggesting that, and all these other techies suggesting that we slow down with this artificial intelligence stuff till we make sure it's not going to kill us. And the Pentagon is saying, are you kidding me? If we slow down, guess what? The Chinese ain't going to. The Chinese aren't going to wait. The Russians aren't going to wait. We got to keep moving. So look at this. I just want to tell you that there is such fear of who's ahead of whom in this, given that the purposes of AI in wartime, it's scary. They say, Pentagon saying, what? So we're going to say there's a moratorium, let's say for 6 months on this kind of, research. You got to be kidding me. First of all, it's impossible to enforce. Anyway, the fact is AI is already on the battlefield. Patriot missiles have an automatic mode. It enables them to fire without human intervention. Did you know that? I mean, it's already out there. There are no treaties. There are no international agreements that deal with AI weaponry. None. And there's very little prospect that there will be. So the new arms race involves this. I'll just leave you with a little bit of stuff for your nightmares. A core problem with artificial intelligence in the military and in national security is how do you defend against attacks that are faster than human decision making? In other words, let's say the missile is coming in so fast that there has to be an automatic response. But what happens if it's a false signal? In other words, a false signal is received. The automatic response is to blow the hell out of whatever, and it would have been a mistake. And the Cold War era is full of these kinds of things where we escaped nuclear war by the skin of our teeth. There were at least 13 near-use nuclear incidents from 1962 to 2002. So it's not unusual for these near-miss incidents, and they come because something gets scrambled, something's misread. There's a human error made, usually. But if our security systems are AI, I don't know. Anyway, I just read this thing, and it scared the bejeebers out of me, and I just want to tell you that that's something else if you're looking for things to become a nervous wreck about. Okay, real fast. Gigi writes, something nice, the influenza affecting birds is not affecting, for the most part, the birds you see in your yard. Well, that's good, but still. It's mostly affecting shore birds, waterfowl, commercial flocks like chickens. And that's the best ray of sunshine I can offer. Oh, dear God. And then Milton has this. Is this from 3 paragraphs on CNN and Caitlin Collins? This is Keith Olbermann again. A guy who I have he annoys the holy hell out of me, if you want to know the truth. But here we go. From Keith Olbermann, this is May 3rd. Unfortunately, it also segues into CNN's disastrous decision to double down on its live town hall next week with Trump. Not only was its moderator, Caitlin Collins, still working for Tucker Carlson at the Daily Caller 7 years ago. Oh. Okay, so Caitlin Collins was at the Daily Caller, and Tucker Carlson was running it. That was his thing, the Daily Caller, right? But looking at some of her articles there shows grotesque indifference to human suffering, to say nothing of Islamophobia. She mocked the waterboarding of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. But she mocked Syrian refugees in another article, authored a pair of homophobic tweets in college. Yet it is Caitlin Collins, as CNN's political director, thinks can stand up to Trump lying in real time. She can prod, ask questions, follow up, and try to get as revealing answers as possible. It is this David Shallian quote in a Vanity Fair piece explaining, we obviously can't control what Trump says. That's up to him and how Trump's the CNN is standing on a precipice if it does not cancel the town hall, which it isn't, and fire or demote Collins. Both its remaining journalistic credibility and any possible resale value it still has will be erased, because its last line of defense against Trump was getting a paycheck as recently as 7 years ago from Tucker. It's not how white men fight. Carlson, Tamake. Okay. All right. So she's being demeaned for past things she's written while working at a conservative media outlet. Okay. Well, the proof's in the pudding. Let's see how she does tonight. All the more reason for me, I guess, to have to watch. Thank you for all this information. Okay? I appreciate it. And talk to you tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.